Hey guys, welcome back. We have another great project today. We're going to learn a little bit about Picasso and his form. And one of the things that people don't know about Picasso is he did a series of sculptures, not only paintings, but sculptures. This is an example of one of those. And we're going to get into the detail, the layering, and Picasso's form today. So let's have some fun. With this project, we're going to need some simple materials, but the outcome is fabulous. This is a three-dimensional form, and we're using Picasso's idea of what simplicity can bring to a three-dimensional shape. So here's the stuff you're going to need. You're going to need some paint, all right? And what I'm using is, of course, acrylic paint. Brushes of all types. So we're talking about a flat brush, a medium flat brush, a small detail brush, and a point round. We're also going to be using our pencil today to sketch out our form and put in some of the details that we're going to paint. Plus, I'm going to use a plastic knife, but you can use a chopstick, some simple straws put together to create the stability, and you'll see what I mean as we get further along. Also, a pair of scissors, a Reynolds wrap empty box that we're going to paint as well, and then we're going to utilize some paper plates to be as our palettes, and a hot glue gun just to seal it up and make sure it's strong enough. So let's get ready for step one. All right guys, so for this step one, we're starting at looking at what we're going to be making. Now this is Picasso's form that he started doing with ceramics, and I have some other examples behind me here that you can look at online or pause and look at. But the first step we're going to do is we're taking out our poster board. Now we're going to be doing a little bit of math because it's going to pay off in the end. And in order to do this, we're getting our poster board, we're folding that in half, we're lining up both of the corners equally, and this is a crucial part. If we don't do this right, it's not going to be even. And we're talking about symmetry today. And in order to make a three-dimensional shape really stand up and have its strength, it has to have the math right. So let's make sure we do that. Now, once I have that crease down the center, I'm going back, I'm going to use my plastic knife and burnish it down. Just give it a nice edge so it's nice and crisp. That helps it to be stronger and stabilized. Now, once that's happened, we've had this cut in half, that's our first measurement. Second one is we're looking at our box here. I'm using this one because I think it's a cool shape. Got it at the dollar store, I think for $1 or something. And I'm going to place it at the bottom. And the reason why I'm doing that is because this knife is going to stick in here and stabilize our sculpture today. Now, when we look at it, we got it glued. I'm going to show you how to glue that in a little bit. We want to make sure that we understand how far the knife is going in. So by doing this and getting into the center, I'm looking at both sides. It's like 2 inches on each side here. Once I get that, I can see where the depth of the knife is going to be. I put a small line right there. I also know, because I'm using a plastic knife, where it starts with that circular part or the cutting part, I'm going to probably go up about 1 inch to 2 inches as well. Make a little line there. And what that tells me is when the knife is put in to the box, that's how it's going to stand three-dimensionally. But it also tells me when do I start my bird. So if it's going in that deep, I know that a little bit down from that, that's where my bird's going to start. So there it is. It gives me about 2 inches. I might go like 1/4 more down just so I can make a bigger bird. So there it is. Those are the measurements we need there. Now I can start my drawing. I'm taking my reference. Here it is. And these are the patterns. I really like that it's a simple form that he's created here. And he's adding a lot of different color patterns, but simplistically, it's only 3 colors. but it comes to different shapes and different ways of using not only design, but also the white, the black, and one color. Love it. So let's look at our reference. We got that. We set it down. We know where our measurement is here. Now, in looking at the reference, I know now I can just draw what I want my bird to be. Now, it can get as big as you want at this point, because we're going to cut a little bit down about the width of this. Now, if you want to give yourself guidance, you can just kind of put a light line, because you know that's where your knife is going to be. We're going to come back and cut that a lot better, but we don't want to show the knife through there. Now that I have that in place, I start looking at my reference to draw out my bird. Now there's a lot of different ways to do it, and as you can see here, there's different beaks, different ways of doing the eye. I'm going down, getting the shape, simplifying it, enhancing it, knowing that when I cut this out, I'm going to have two sides here. Go back, let my line flow a little bit, shoot back the tail, want the tail to get a little bit bigger, might get a little sharper maybe on the beak here. So I'm going to do that. Simple triangle helps me do that. This is all about simple shapes and simple form. We're not trying to reinvent. We're simplifying what we see. It's not a real bird, it's an interpretation of one. And that's what Picasso was good at. He was able to look at something and simplify it. So there we go. I'm going to cut this back a little bit. Now, as long as I have this in place, I can go back now and put a hard line to it. And the reason I'm doing that is because now I know exactly what I'm going to cut and what it'll look like. Go a little higher here, duck in a little bit more. I'm going to shoot higher here. Sometimes I freeform it just because my first drawing kind of gives me an outline, but now I'm able to go back and see how I can make it better. I'm always trying to make things better. A little bit lower here. Kind of like that. Here's my shape. That might become part of my pattern later. Don't you know yet? I'm going to set in an eyeball just so when I start looking at where I'm going to set in the wing, I'm going to do a light drawing now on the inside. The reason why is I'm painting the inside, so I really don't want the pencil to show all too much. But I do want some guidelines, so when I open it up, I've seen it before, and I understand where my pattern's going to go. Now, one of the things I also liked was this sunburst. That's kind of a symbol of our city. So I'm going to put that in the middle here, lightly. Again, because I'm coming back to paint it, right? Up and down, a little bit to the side. And again, this is symmetry. As I'm building my sun, I'm just setting in some marks. I'm looking at shape. All right. There we go. Now let's look at some of the things Picasso did. He would go into the neck and add another line. So I'm going to add that same line here, simple shape. I'm going to look at the head, probably do another one back here, just real lightly, just to identify where the eyeball is, but also give it a little bit of interest. Some small circles, maybe that'll come out nicely there. The back end, I want to accentuate that. That's another curve I'm setting in, right there. Probably going to make that attach, like it. Let's throw it all the way down. Why not? Looks good. All right, so now I have kind of the setup, what I want, where I want it, and a simple drawing, just so I can see where I'm going to place my shapes in. All right, I like it. Let's start cutting it out. Ooh, I saw another shape here. Hold on, found it. What should I do with my beak? I think I'm going to throw a little half circle on it. And you want to check your references all the time, just to make sure that there might be an idea that he's got that we could use. He was a master, you know, so you kind of want to look at that, make sure you can see some of the marks he made. Let's do this one here, one last line. I thought I was done, but I'm not yet. All right, feel good about that, like that. So now it's time to get our scissors. With the scissors, got to be careful. We've measured to see how far the knife goes up. So I want to keep a straight line cut all the way to the top. Now take your time on this, because the cleaner it is, the better the sculpture is going to come out. Now you also want to come in from a different angle. Not always the same way. If you come in from a different angle, you're going to be able to address the shape a lot better, and your cuts are going to be a lot cleaner. So make sure you do that. Change your angle, rotate your canvas. Here's one here. Just getting that clean little crisp cut, because I know it's going to be good. All right, there's the bottom half. Came out kind of nicely. Same thing, flip my canvas, address it from another angle, start cutting, get to the main shape, going in, remembering that I don't want to cut all the way through. I still have that other side that's going straight into the box that I have to take care of. Okay, there we go. Now I can cut up from this area. That does the bottom right there perfectly. Nice. Okay, little clip here. Oop. Let's rotate it again. It's all right. There we go. Now let's do the top of the bird. Again, rotating, starting on the top, cutting through. Now, he always had, Picasso, this idea of freedom, that he loved the idea of a bird. He had a lot of birds all the time around his house. He lived in Paris, he lived in Spain, lived in different places, but everywhere he went, he had somewhere where he kept his birds. Whether they were in there all day in a cage, or they just flew around, birds really inspired him. And for me, in El Paso, when I go in the backyard and I see the birds, it reminds me that there's freedom, but there's also this imagination. I wish I could fly. So here we are. Last little bits and pieces. Looking again to line that up. We want it lined up now. Don't let the paper shift on you. Make sure it's lined up as best you can get it, because we're going to glue them together in a little bit. All right. So there we are. We have step one, step two put together. Should look like that. You have your design ready. We're going to clean off our space and then open it up a little bit, just like this, right? So now we're talking about symmetry. What's so great about symmetry is whatever I did over here, I'm going to do over there. So if it makes it comfortable for you, it's already been thought about. You already have it. You want to make sure you don't rip the bottom. That's not good. Grab your pencil again, and then whatever you see on this side, this is when you start doing it on the other side, right? And if it gets a little tricky, you can always flip it around and double check. It doesn't have to be perfect, because sometimes little differences add to the art, and you can see two different views of it, but you kind of want to capture the same thing. Just because when people revolve around it, they want to see it come together as a three-dimensional piece, but it doesn't have to be exactly the same. All right. So now I'm taking my time, I'm looking at the information. We got it from here, but now I got my own information on what I want to do. Right? Yeah, I like that one. This one is where I had the sun. I also did, let me check. Yeah, did a little top loop on this. So I'm going to do that as well. Maybe a little thicker. Then I had sun rays that were all lined up symmetrical. So let's do that. So good, loving it. Let's get to the next spot, which was the tail. I had a really cool drop line here to signify where the tail begins, and then just some directional lines to show the feathers. And I like it, but now that I've done it here, I kind of want to make them thicker. So if I change anything as I'm drawing on the second one, I want to come back and do the same thing down here. And I'm going to do that because I just think it makes it better. I've decided. There we go. All right, super cool. I'm liking this bird. All right, so let's look at some of the other things we did. I had another identifier here. That's just a wispy line or a detail or a pattern that he would put in. Like that. This circle has to be a little better. Okay. Everything looks like I've got this here. Yeah, I think we've done it. All right, guys, so now I have my two designs put together. They're in symmetry. I put them on both sides, right? They're the same, little changes here and there, but nothing big. And I filled in so that I know where I'm going to be putting the black. And I thought about that. I made some choices where I want the black. And I suggest you do that with the pencil lightly. Go back and fill that in. And in doing that step, you're not going to miscue. Plus, you're going to think about all the other areas where you're going to put this blue or white. Okay? So let's get started. All right, so now I've painted both sides. I put in the detail where we had aligned out in our drawing. I did it symmetrical on both sides, which was great because I was able to balance. I came up with new ideas, and then I layered a color over the top if I wanted to. Take away a little black, add a little blue, and this is what we came up with. So it should be one piece that has two birds at this point. But now we're going to take these two and put them together in order to create a three-dimensional object. So I'm going to lay it down here. Again, here's where my plastic knife comes in. I set it towards the bottom here, making sure I have the measurement right. I'm going to put a little line inside because nobody's going to see it, just so I know. Then I'm taking my hot glue gun. I'm going to lay a nice bead right up the center. Okay, that should be about right. I'm going to glue this down, all right? Let's put it in this way. Don't want to show it, so I got to make sure I'm hiding it. Press it down, hold it for a second. Okay, that's going to hold. Now, once I get that down, I'm going back and I'm adding a couple of dots, maybe a line or two in different areas. All right, all the way up to the head. I want to make sure I get some in the head. Then, once I have that the way I want it, I'm putting a line right down the back on the other side of the knife. There we go. All the way up again. Any glue I have left in the glue stick I'll use. Set that apart over there, and then I'm pressing this and lining the two up together. Want to make sure I'm getting those all the way solidified down. If I need to put more glue, I can do that, no problem. But this is the first spot. This is where I want to make sure I'm getting everything. Now, if anything pops out, what I'll do is I'll go back, add a little bit more glue in there, right? And put that down, just to get it. There we go. That feels pretty good. All right, maybe a little bit here. All right, now I've taken my Reynolds box, remember? I also want to add a glue here. So now in the case of the box, what I'm going to be doing is laying a small bead. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get the glue to come through. All the way across the box. And I'm doing it on the side where I have the lid because I want to make sure that one's sealed all the way down. So a nice line, nice bead. Push it across where we normally open it. Make sure it's down. Let the glue hit it. Okay. Push it a little bit. It might take a couple more beads. That's okay. Throw some in here. I'm holding it. All right. This side a little more too. Really want to make sure I have it sealed. It's important. So it's fine if I take it. I'm going to hold it for a couple minutes, or a couple seconds actually, just to get that in there. Should dry pretty quickly. And then while it's drying, what I'm looking to do, I can flip this over now. I'm going to measure into the middle, because what's going to happen is I'm taking my sculpture, I'm setting it in. It should drop in somewhere around there, right in the middle. You can always line it up, do it by eye. If you want to measure it with a ruler, that's fine. Now we're going to raise it up when I think it's the middle, which I think about right there is. I'm going to find the center. All right, once I find the center, I take my pencil again, put a small unseeable line where I think I need to cut. All right, I can see it, but nobody else can. So I can use one side of my scissors, and I'm just kind of poking in slowly, just to create a little bit of a niche all the way across. Okay, that should be good. Then I'm setting it in. Setting it in. I want to make sure it's tight. You don't want to cut too much. You want to have it tight. And there you go. You get a three-dimensional sculpture, two-sided. Let me show you this side. Totally cool. But on top of that, now, if I wanted to, I could throw a detail on the pedestal. In this case, I'm keeping it clean, but you're welcome to do that. Or put your name on the front. And there you go. You learned a little bit about Picasso. You also learned about pattern and layering and line and form. But you made a three-dimensional piece that's just awesome. So I hope you had a good time. If you get something good, and I know you're going to on this one, send us a picture. We'd love to see it. Have fun, guys. Take care.